All right, welcome to the Recovery Bros podcast. I'm your co-host Adam Sudd and my other co-host Doug Bopst. We are two guys in recovery talking about everything recovery for men, everything from strategies, real-world conversations, real-world strategies, and mental health science. All right, what's up, Doug?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm excited about today's conversation because we're going to do a talk about the value of having a mentor in recovery, specifically in early recovery, but I think in any kind of even it's always valuable. But let's get into it.
So I think having a mentor is important, in my opinion, for a few reasons. Number one, you're practicing the idea that you don't know everything, right? And you're getting in that mentality of asking for help, which if you were an addict for a long time, that probably was a problem for quite a bit, right? So it helps reinforce that muscle of asking for help when you don't know something. And the main thing that I would say it's really important is like, listen, success leaves clues. And, that's very, apparent in the personal development space. It's been a saying for a while. But the reason that I think that it's important is because it's not to say you should take shortcuts, but it's like, okay, how can you have a mentor that can help you avoid certain traps that you may fall into in early recovery? That's why the idea of a sponsor is so valuable, like in the 12-step community, right? It's because you have someone that can help guide you through the steps and the territory that you're not familiar with, or that you are familiar with but you haven't been able to make it through. And so it doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you don't know what you're doing. It just means that, like, having someone there that can help guide you and hold you accountable to make sure you don't fail is very valuable.
I think there's a few things when I was thinking about this topic, I kind of have like several aspects of it that I really want to talk about. Number one, I think that in all things addiction recovery is chaos becoming order. Like that's Jordan Peterson talks about order against chaos and chaos against order, and how that these are great examples. But the fundamentally addiction is a descent into chaos, right? It's the collapse of structure and meaning and voluntary engagement with life. A mentor is someone who has already walked through that and returned. They're living proof that order can be rebuilt. And for someone drowning in the disorder of addiction, that embodied example is far more powerful than any abstract advice, like living witness, right? And that brings me to like the necessity of witness. Like human beings, I think we need to be seen, right? Genuinely witnessed. And so a sponsor or a mentor, however you want to call it, is in recovery, doesn't just give instructions, they hold someone accountable by knowing them, right? That relational accountability is part of what makes 12-step program so effective, right? It's like, well, a room of people that that know you, they see you and everything. You can't lie as easily to someone who's been exactly where you are, right? You won't get away with the con that other people might not be able to see. And the other thing is like, there's a hierarchy, I think, that in this that you see in addiction recovery. Like there's the newbies, there are the people who've gotten like their 1 year chips, there's the old timers, right? There's like a hierarchy, but it's as a feature, right? Others might be skeptical of like hierarchical mentorship, but I think that um, not through dominance, but through earned competence and hard won wisdom, looking up to someone gives you a direction to move towards. And I think that without that kind of vertical dimension, recovery has no trajectory. That's why it's like you go in the room and it's like, oh, those are the people got a year, those people have 5 years, those are the old timers, they're 20 years. Like, wait, people get there? Like that's what those are living examples of a 20-year direction for this thing. That's amazing. And I think that's really important.
I agree. I mean, I think the idea that you're spending time with somebody that can help you figure things out along the way is very monumental. And I think above that too, it's like what's one of the main things that people struggle with when they get sober? It's like, how do you find new friends? How do you, if you feel like you've cut off or had to cut off people, or they've cut you off because of how you've behaved, then it's like, okay, this person can be a good role model for me, because maybe that person hasn't had a role model in their life. And there's so many different reasons. And I think that the first thing that I think people should do if they're trying to find a mentor is I think they have to be like all in. You can't just sit there and be like, okay, I think I want it. I don't think I do. I think maybe I do. Because then what's going to happen is you're going to have one foot in and one foot out, and then it's just not
Yeah.
going to be as effective. You're going to burn bridges because a lot of times people that are mentoring others, I mean, yeah, there's some patience there, but after a period of time, like, dude, like, I'm not going to do the work for you. Like, you got to want it for yourself. So you have to be all in and commit to saying, okay, like for the next 90 days, I'm going to commit to doing everything I possibly can. And if I don't feel better about my life, then I can reassess and reevaluate what's going on. And I think once you do that, I think your guard comes down a little bit because the apprehensiveness and the defensiveness kind of starts to dissipate a little bit because now you've already fully committed to what you're doing for a time frame. And then the other thing is, you want to make sure that you're aligned with somebody. I think you see a lot of people, they end up hiring mentors, and sure, this person may be more successful than them, they may have more recovery, whatever it is, but they're just not aligned. Like the person is, their delivery isn't what they respond to. They're just different learners. Maybe like they're too dogmatic. I don't whatever. But the point is, you have to find somebody that's in line with you. And on the flip side of that, because there's nuance here, like you can't just use that as a continued excuse. Like it's okay to be like, okay, this person's not in alignment with me, but that becomes a pattern. That's a you problem where you're like just not willing to kind of suck it up for a period of time.
What do you think about this? The idea that like addiction is really a mechanism that grows in isolation, right? And so what I mean by that is what you hide, you become ashamed of, right? So and that's where addiction becomes relevant. Um, what we hide, we come to become ashamed of, and it festers in secrecy. And if it does, it becomes even bigger and bigger and bigger and more monstrous over the course of time. So the addict typically lives a concealed, hidden life, hiding the use, hiding the lies, hiding the drinking, all the stuff. And that concealment it becomes corrosive precisely because it is unwitnessed, right? So the unseen parts of ourselves grow, uh, and they, I guess you could say, even like they take over, they metastasize. So to be seen and still be accepted. So I think that to be seen and still accepted is redemptive. It's like that's therapeutic power, right? So being fully seen and not rejected, when you confess the worst of yourself to another person, like a mentor or a sponsor, they don't recoil from you, something is healed, right? Like you learn that you can be known in your full self and still belong to someone. I think that's a huge part of recovery, and I think that that's a mechanism that mentors play, which is like, dude, tell me the worst thing you've ever done. Like, we'll be right here. I'm still gonna be your mentor. We're still gonna move forward. I'm going to guarantee you that the life you still want is available to you, no matter how awful the things you've done. And I can say that with confidence because I'm living proof that I was once where you were and have moved forward to where you'd like to be.
I think another layer to this, excuse me. I think another layer to this is, I don't know if you're familiar with that Footprints in the Sand, um,
Yeah, of course.
like photo and the
Yeah.
poem and essentially I can't quote it verbatim, but the idea is there's there's two footprints in the sand. It's just a left foot and a right foot, right? And it's this person like crying out to God, like, why weren't you there for me? Blah, blah, blah. And then God responds, it's like, I carried you. That's why there's only, two feet and not four, right? I think that's the idea. But it makes sense to me and what we're talking about. And I say that because, as much as you have to put in the work in early recovery, a good mentor will help you build a lot of momentum, right? Along the way. It'll help carry you through some of the storms. It'll help be there for you during those early times. Because everybody knows that like the first few months of recovery, can be pretty painful. You're like trying to figure things out. You're like, oh my God, like what do I do about a job, my parents, my health, my
Right.
relationships? So maybe you got divorced. Like there's so much could be going on as a result of that process, right? And a mentor, I think, steps in and creates those guardrails for that person and that container to say, okay, like it's all good. Like let's think objectively here. Like, okay, you went through this, but let's step outside the box. And then it allows somebody to build momentum. And I know we've talked about just the importance of accepting that the ride of recovery, and that there's going to be these ups, these downs. There's going to be like, it's going to be chaotic. You're going to have cravings, but you just have to ride the waves. You know what I mean? It's like you just have to ride the storm and not like let yourself get like taken out, by these like tornadoes that come, you know, out of nowhere in recovery.
So that actually leads me to a story that I want to tell you about when I was early in recovery, and a point I want to make about why mentors are so important. And this is because this is when a mentor checked my bullshit behavior, right? So I think that truth requires a witness, right? So you can lie to yourself endlessly in private. You can make up stories about who you are and what you think you deserve, what you don't deserve. But articulating your reality to another conscious person forces a kind of honesty. The other person becomes a check against your own self deception. So I got up one morning and I went into the kitchen, and like what I wanted to eat wasn't available. And what I, you know, there was too much junk food in there, and it was making it difficult for me to make a healthy choice. And I like threw a fit. Like I threw a towel across the kitchen. I cussed and yelled and ran out of the house. And one of my mentors, a guy named Luke Chittick, he comes charging out after me and like stops me from like walking down the Santa Monica boardwalk. And he's like, dude, what happened, right? Like, you got to understand from our perspective what we just witnessed. You came into the kitchen, we're all sitting at the table having breakfast. You open the cabinet, you just threw a fit, man. You just threw a total fit. Like, what's wrong, bro? And I said, I'm trying to eat healthy, trying to get sober. There's all this junk food in the house. This is bullshit, man. I shouldn't have to deal with this. I'm an adult. And he goes, he goes, yeah. Well, if you're such an adult, why can't you deal with it? And I was like, oh, what a check. Like that is such a bullshit story. That is not why you threw a fit. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to yourself. Let's be honest here. And I think that's so important because new in recovery, you are still your addict self. You're still the one who would lie to create a false reality that of comfort and escapism and excuses. And the mentor goes, nah, bah, nope, checking that nonsense. That is not reality. Let's talk about reality. And gosh, if you can be here for that, oh my goodness, that is for someone whose self worth has collapsed. The act of being taken seriously by another person can be the foundation on which they rebuild. It's like to take someone seriously means to call them on their bullshit, and like that's real deal stuff.
Because there's an element of care there, right? And I think that people, they equate like somebody being hard on them, like you just referenced, or like how my cellmate was when I was in jail, to being mean or hating you. There's a difference between picking on someone and bullying someone or whatever, and giving somebody constructive criticism. Because I think if that guy didn't care about you, he wouldn't have said anything, right? And that's the thing. If people don't care, they don't say anything. They just keep on going about their business. They just keep on passing by. And I think that people then, now they're probably saying, okay, like, where do I find a mentor? Where do I start? Like, what if I don't want to go to a 12-step meeting? Well, I think, I think when you go to 12-step meetings first, we'll get that out of the way. It's like, it's easier to find someone there because it's kind of this acceptance that when you enter 12 steps as a newcomer, there are people there that are going to embrace you, and then find someone to connect you with that could be a good fit for a sponsor. Cool. Interview a few sponsors. And like we said earlier, like, be willing to like go all in, and not be afraid to be held accountable. I think outside of that, one of the best things I did, and I know it's like not as cost effective, is hire a personal trainer, because it just got me good at being held accountable. And it also, in line with that, it gave me somebody to kind of talk to. It gave me a friend that was in line with where I was going. And it also got me used to being held accountable in a way that was transformative, because now I was focusing on my health, which then in turn, like we said in the last conversation, like it really built my confidence. So I think that's one way. There's plenty of like Facebook groups for recovery that you can find support. There's plenty of coaching programs. There's life coaches, there's therapists, there's, so many different resources that I think you'd be surprised at how easy it is to ask for to get some help, as long as you're ready to receive it. Now, of course, there's like everyone's like, I want Tony Robbins as my mentor, and it's like, all right, you got to have realistic expectations. um, my
Well,
point is you gotta find somebody, and you can. There's different avenues for different people.
I think finding someone that could, you can call them a coach, you can call them a mentor, you can call them, sponsor, however the language you want to use that makes it easy for you to take action. God, man, coaching is so important. It's like it's the best. It's finding a life coach that would coach you in the aspects of your life that you're interested in. Finding a sober coach or a recovery coach or however you want to phrase it, whatever language you want to use, whatever. Um, there's a reason why those things are talked about so much early in recovery. It's not, cliches are cliche for a reason. It's like, oh, well, they're going to want me to work with a sober coach. It's like, yeah, of course they are. Because what we know is people who do tend to do better for a reason. Because these individuals wouldn't do it if they weren't interested in being someone that could support someone in recovery. That the person you're going to work with is uniquely interested in helping you, right? They're also not going to be a sober coach unless they have a certain amount of recovery under their belt. So it's like, even by the nature of experience, they have value to share with you, or just the witness living example like we talked about earlier. It's like, every week I can get on a call with someone who's been sober for 10 years. Why would
Right.
I not want to do that? What could I lose by doing that? Nothing. You could lose a lot maybe by not doing it. That's for sure. And so I'm a huge fan. I think that, like we talked about, the hierarchical structure of recovery makes sense. It's a feature in recovery, not a bug, as I said, right? It's the people occupy a higher position on the quote unquote dominance hierarchy through earned competence and hard won wisdom of recovery. You want to surround yourself with those people. You want them guiding your decisions early on, because if you knew the right decision to make early on, you wouldn't have been in recovery in the first place, right? And so take advantage. I think mentorship, coaching, surrounding yourself by individuals who have your best interest at heart and also have done this before is a good idea, and it's nothing less than that.
And I think that when you, again, like when you find that mentor that you jive with, I think there's some like kind of like rules, that you should probably try and follow to the best of your ability. And in my opinion, it's that you shouldn't act like you know everything. You should be a good listener. Because like you just said, like if you had figured everything out and if you were already like adulting, like you wouldn't have been in that position anyway, right? So it's like be a sponge for information. Be somebody that isn't afraid to be held accountable, like follow through. Be polite, be thankful. And I think those things will go a long way. And not just like from enhancing that relationship with whoever it is that's coaching you, but just that energy in general, right? Because again, it's like you look at some of these habits and patterns people are trying to break. It's a lot of negativity. It's a lot of like hopelessness, a lot of failure identity, a lot of selfishness, right? And the way to combat that is just by these little things consistently that can kind of turn that ship around for someone.
I think uh, like we said there before, being honest and telling the truth is an antidote for the struggles that you're dealing with in recovery, because most of addiction recovery is hidden behind lies and deceit and trying to be something that you're, or trying to tell the world that you're something that you're not, which is like every addict's trying to get away with being an addict, right? um, And so there's a great, I know I quote him a lot, but there's in the book 12 Rules for Life, one of the rules is assume that the person in front of you knows something you don't. That's a great rule. So if you're in recovery, just assume that you know a lot less than you think you do. And to believe anything other than that is just sheer arrogance and an act of deceit. It's like, how your best thinking got you exactly where you are? How much could you know about this? That's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah, and I think it just comes back to this like idea that recovery is the ultimate slice of humble pie,
Oh,
and humility, and it's tough, it sucks, it's going to be brutally hard no matter what. especially like the first, I would say first year or two. After that, I don't think it's, I mean, yeah, you'll have life challenge, but you won't have like recovery related challenges, you know? Like I think after the first year or two, you'll kind of like get back to some sense of normalcy. And then a lot of what you're learning will become, I mean, fairly second nature. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but I think once you get over that hump, I think you'll find um, that it's pleasantly helpful.
Yeah. I think, tell me what you think about this. Do you think that the greatest, one of the, that there's more damage done by the substance itself or by the web of deception required to maintain it?
I mean, I think it's the deception and everything else, the manipulate, the manipulative behavior. It's like the gasoline fire effect, right? It's like the fire is, you know, kind of like the substance, right? And then when your behavior starts to become poor, just throw gasoline on it and it just like blows up because now you have like everything else that's going wrong. You have relationships, you have work life stuff. Your brain is like wired for manipulation now. You're like used to lying. Your confidence is shot. You have no direction in life. You have no purpose. Like all these things have been exacerbated by addiction. You know what I mean? And addiction just makes that fire that much bigger. Where yeah, the substance is that fire, right? It's like a problem, but it's like it becomes so much bigger because of the other things that happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, every deceptive lie that you make in order to maintain your addiction shrinks the world or the territory in which you can be authentically known, right? So like eventually you're performing this false life to everyone. And the real you, the using, suffering, frightened you has no witness at all. So you become radically alone. And so I think that that's where the witness becomes important. In fact, necessary. Being seen is not only comforting, it's demanding when, and so as the point of our conversation is like when you think about addiction and the damage that it does to you, the damage is done by the isolating nature of deception and lies. The fact that you're hiding who you really are, you've shrunk the territory of your authentic self to this radically, minimal hellhole that you live in. The only way out of it is to find someone who would believe you, who would listen to you and not recoil from your stories and say, I got you. I've done this before. Let's go. I'm going to show you the path out of here, or a path out of here. Like, I don't see how recovery works without it.
Adam, this has been an awesome talk. Get a mentor, get a sponsor, whatever you call it, life coach, trainer. Listen, we're loving these shorter episodes. We find that, for one, addicts, or former addicts have short attention spans, and two, it's just less fluff. Like there's a lot of meat in what we're talking about. But if you have any suggested topics, please leave them in the comments below. We appreciate everybody's support, and thanks so much for watching.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.